everybody. Hope you're having an awesome start to your week. All right, today we're going to do some really cool stuff. We're going to talk about some really interesting things here. And the topic is rhythm, rhythm guitar, rhythm. We're going to talk about some odd time signatures, how to take odd time signatures, which many people find to be a little bit confusing or a little hard. We're going to break it down and make it really easy, because when you play in an odd time signature like 5-4 or 7-8 or 11-8 or any of those, it's very, very cool. It's very interesting. You don't hear it all the time. It's much more interesting than the typical 4-4, that you hear in most songs. And a lot of people avoid it because they think it's confusing or it's hard, and it really isn't. Okay, it's really not hard at all, and we're going to show you an easy way to do this. So I brought in a very good friend of mine, someone I've known for a long time. We've toured together. He is a really great expert on rhythm guitar, and I'm talking, of course, about Mark Turko. Mark, what's going on, buddy?
Then how are you doing today, Tom Hess?
Very good, man. Very good. Say, before we get started, for everyone here listening and watching us live, let us know who you are and where you're from. So I see that we had Lars is here, Matthew from the UK, Lars from Sweden, David from Canada. Let's see here. Lou from Nice, Kelly from Dallas, Father John Armstrong from Pennsylvania, Jim from West Virginia, Todd from Denver, Colorado, and Ron from Texas. All right. So I'm sure there'll be more joining us as we move on. So, Mark.
Yes.
As you know, people get confused about rhythm, about breaking down, time signatures like 5 or 7, 9 or 11. And they're just not sure, what to do, how to do it, how to count it, how to play it, how to make it feel natural. So I wanted to talk to you and see if you had some ways that you use with your students that help them to play in odd time signatures.
Yes. The primary and the easiest way is not to count the full amount. So if it's in 5, you don't count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You break it up into smaller parts. So meaning that you can count in 3s or 2s when it comes to 5, or you can count in 3s, 4s if it's in 7, or you could do 2 2s. But the point of it is that we just don't take the whole entire odd time signature and count it in its entirety, because first of all, it's confusing. And second of all, if you do count it by breaking up into smaller components, you actually feel the rhythm better and more of what it's trying to convey in the rhythm. It's more natural for you to have it come out through your hands if you break it up into smaller components. So let's just say let's talk about 5, Now there's 2 ways to count 5. You can count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, or 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, or 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And if you're in the middle of it, it all sounds the same, but the way that it feels when you start it, it actually has a different kind of vibe to it. So if you're trying to figure out something, let's just say, for example, in 5-4, and you're having a hard time, let's say you were told, try inversing those 2 ways of counting, either starting with the 2 and then the 3, or the 3 and then the 2. And one of them is going to lock in better than the other one. It's just going to feel more natural in whatever you're playing.
Yes, exactly. And one thing that counting, like what you just described, one thing that does is it helps you to feel where the accents are.
Yeah.
So if we're playing in 5, instead of putting an accent just on 1 and doing this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can do that, and that sometimes occurs in 5-8 or 5-4. But here there's only an accent on 1. But if there was going to be an accent on, let's say, 1 and 3, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's sometimes easier to do what you were describing, which is to count it 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So every time you say a 1, you say a 1 wherever you want the accents to be. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Or if the accent was going to be on 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In that case, then it makes sense to count it 3 plus 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you count it this way. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So I think, and maybe you could talk about this too, Mark, when you teach students to do something in 5 and there's an accent somewhere other than 1, or maybe there's an accent on 1 and somewhere else, it could be tricky for some people to accent the word 3 or the word 4. So if they just line the accents up with 1, it's say 1 wherever the accent is, becomes much easier. Have you found that with your students as well?
Yeah, 99% of the time, you're never going to have an accent on the 2 of your group of 3. It's just not that common. It's the whole feel of 5/4 is on the 1 or the 3 typically. So it makes it really, really easy if we're just saying 1 instead of 3, because 3 is confusing. 2 is confusing. So, all of that is, it's very confusing, so by breaking up it into the smaller groups of 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, naturally we always want to accent on the 1 anyways. It's just inherent to playing guitar and actually just to listening to music too. I mean, if you're a foot tapper, you might find yourself tapping your foot just a little bit harder on the 1 on every measure, even if you're not a musician. I don't know why that is, but it just happens that way for people. So yes, it's much easier to convey the accent on the 1 of whether it be a 2 or a 3 beats than it is to try to pick some other number. I mean, you get accent on the 1 and the 4. I mean, it would be probably cool, but it's not something common. Everybody's heard 5/4 time before. They just don't know it. They just don't know what it is when it comes to playing the guitar. They know what it is. That's the cool thing. If everybody knows what 4/4 time is, and everybody knows what a waltz is, then if you just merge the 2 together, it's 5/4, and you've heard it a million times. You just haven't known it yet, or it's never been brought to your attention as to actually what it is.
All right. So other than breaking up the counting, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then hitting your hands harder if you're clapping your hands on the 1s. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. In fact, let's pause here. Let's let everybody try that. So wherever you are watching from, if you got your guitar in your hand, just take your fretting hand, mute all the strings, just cover them up, and just do this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Just hitting harder on the 1s. 1. If you don't have your guitar in your hand, just clap. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's it. Okay, so let's try it together. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. If that's fast, you just slow it down. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. So if you're listening live or on the recording, and you're able to either clap your hands or play your guitar, you're playing in 5/4 time or 5/8 time. Same thing. You just did it. So if you thought, oh, I don't know how to do that, congratulations, ding, ding, ding. You just did it. You just did it. Want to maybe take them to the opposite one where it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, Mark?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So it'd be, I'm not plugged in right now, but it would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Yeah, exactly. And you can clap your hands to that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Or play your guitar, tap your foot.
It feels very different, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does. It feels very, very, very different. So that's why I was saying before, if somebody says, or you're reading it, or whatever, this is in 5/4 time. If you're given this information, and 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 doesn't feel like it's jiving, just flip it, because it's a very different feeling of the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It feels very, very, very different.
Yeah. For those who don't know, 5/4 or 5/8 time is often used to depict war scenes. There's a very famous piece by a composer from the 19th century named Gustav Holst, and he wrote a set of pieces called The Planets. And one of those movements of that big piece of music is called Mars, the Bringer of War. And that is in 5/4, 5/8, 5/4. Okay. And it's you've all heard it before, and it sounds very, very warlike. If you've watched the Lord of the Rings movies, right now I'm thinking about the last one, The Return of the King. If you've seen that movie and you've got the orcs and all the bad guys on the march to the battle, okay, there's more than one battle in that movie, and I don't remember which battle it is, but one of those, it's just twos and threes combined. It's ripped off right from Gustav Holst's Mars, the basic 5 pattern, but it's groups of twos and threes. And if you put the 2 first and then the 3, that's more war-like. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. If you watch Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, watch that movie, you will hear that rhythm in there. Definitely, it's in there. Okay, so and it's where they're running out or marching out to battle. So it's a pretty cool thing. Where if you flip it over, 3 plus 2, it's a different feel, as Mark was saying, and it's I find it to be a little bit more relaxed, less war-like. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. But if you want to make a pretty aggressive sound, try 2 plus 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'll give you another example when we get into 7 that is built upon this war theme in 5. There's a variation of this, which is really cool, which we'll talk about when we get that far.
The 3 plus 2, initially you're feeling that 3/4 almost a waltz like, and then it kind of gets interrupted, and it's waltz and it's interrupted. At least my feeling of what it is, it's less warlike and more danceable.
Yeah, yeah,
more danceable.
yeah. Because waltzes and most dance movements are in 3.
Right.
I'm talking about traditional dance. We're not talking about boom, boom, boom at the club.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about too.
We're not talking about brainless stuff. We're talking about 19th century, 18th century.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, also, right. Yeah, you feel that danceable part of it. Even the jazz standard, "Take 5" by Dave Brubeck.
Yep.
If you don't know what it is, look it up. You've heard it a million times. Yeah. I mean, it's called "Take 5." It's because it's in 5.
Who knew? Yeah. Exactly.
I believe he has a song. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's just called 11 and 8. Oh, really? It's called 11 and 8, and it's in 11/8. I believe. I could be mistaken, but I know "Take 5" is It's in 5/8. That's why he named the song that. Mission Impossible theme too.
Yeah.
You know, the original version of it. That one's in 5/4 as well. And the theme song from Halloween, the movie.
Oh.
Yes. So you're talking about the war thing.
Yeah.
So there you go. You know.
So other than clapping it out, counting it out, what are some maybe other ways that people could learn to play where it feels natural in 5/8 or 5/4 time?
Well, if you're going to just try starting it out, I would suggest that after, first of all, start off slow, okay? And let's just say that we're going to strum. If you keep your downstrokes on the accent, I know once you come back around, you'll be doing a double downstroke at the end of your 3 or your 2, but that'll actually help you really, really, really get super, super comfortable with having the one happen when a downstroke happens. Now, if you're totally accustomed to up and down strumming constantly, it might be a little bit of an adjustment. But when you have the downstroke equal, you know, the one of the 1 and the 2, or and the one of the 1 and the 3, it'll actually help you really kind of reset. So every time you start the new group of 5, it is a reset. But the point of it is it'll help you sync that up too. And then also, if you're going to be doing like another easy way is if you could pick a 5-note picking pattern. So if you were to take any 5 or, you could keep it super easy, 5 or 6 string chord version. It doesn't matter what it is. And you only play 1 note per string. So if we're playing just a C major chord here, boom, you know, that everybody knows. If you were just to go through all 5 strings and then quickly get back again, without the pause though, that's the thing. Most people want to add the 1 more beat in. You can't add the 1 more beat in, but if you keep it super simple, 1 time through every string, start again. 1 time through every string, start again. And you can count the 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 while you're doing that as well. And that'll help you eliminate that pause.
Yeah, I've got a song I wrote a couple decades ago that does exactly that. It's a C chord with the 9th added. My pinky finger's playing on the 12th fret of the D string. The rest of it's just a bar chord, C major bar chord. And it goes like this. You covering all 6 strings with the chord, but I'm only playing the bottom 5. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm not playing the high E string. And what Mark was saying was, you don't want to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, where some people they'll play the 5 notes and then they'll let the last note ring out. So it's actually there's a 6 in there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't do that. After you play 5, you go immediately back to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm alternating between playing the 2nd string and playing the high E string, but I'm still playing 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you have Guitar Pro or any sort of MIDI program, and you just program it in there to play in 5/8 time or 5/4 time, so you hear it and you play along, and it's a simple pattern. You hold down a chord, as Mark's example was a C chord here. Just play along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just be careful not to pause. Don't do that, because now you're not in 5 anymore. You're playing 5 notes, but you're not in 5/8 time. Now you're in 6/8 time because the sustained note 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't want to do that. So So yeah, those are some easy ways that you can do. You just play any chord, E major, real simple. And you can create a lot of cool music just by playing in 5. It's going to feel different than 4 or 6, and it makes it unique. Very
So
neat.
I have a quick question for you. When explaining to a student the difference between 5/4 and 5/8, how do you explain that to them? Because there is a point of confusion where people go, "Well, I was told this and I was told that," and so there's more than one answer that's correct, but there's also misinformation.
Yeah, there's more than one right answer, but there are endless wrong answers.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what do you tell your
So
students
yeah,
when
it's
you
part.
explain it?
Yeah,
5/4, 5/8.
part of it is tempo. How fast is the tempo, and then is there anything else happening in between those 5 notes? So if you're doing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and that's 5/4. More, it's a stronger case for 5/4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And we're assuming here I'm playing eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and. But when we go back to this thing I was playing, you could call that 5/4, but it's really, since there's nothing else happening in between these, it's a stronger case for 5/8. If you called it 5/4, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily wrong, but all the notation is going to change. Instead of notating these as eighth notes, it all have to be quarter notes now. So tempo is going to be quite a bit of a part of it, and the rhythmic density. Is there anything happening in between all of those numbers, those 5s? If there isn't, it's a stronger case for 5/8. And it also happens what happened before. So let's say you were playing a song in 4/4, and now you're just adding one more beat to the 4/4. Well, now you have a strong case for 5/4. But if you're taking the eighth notes from 4/4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, but you're only playing 5 of those eighth notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then it's clearly 5/8. So, for example, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm running out of breath here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The eighth notes in 5/8 are equal to the equal in terms of the speed or the length as the eighth notes in 4/4. But if we did 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and, now we're clearly in 5/4 because the beats of 4/4 line up perfectly with the beats of 5/4. They're the same speed. We're not increasing or decreasing the beats. We're just adding the beat when we're adding a beat to 4/4 to get 5/4.
I have one more question for you then. That's fantastic. I think the bigger answer is depends. A blanket statement is it depends. And the larger context of everything. What is going on? Where are we coming from? Where are we going? Everything like that. But my additional question for you, which may be more relevant in 7/8 or 11/8, or which we're going to be talking about. When you see standard music notation, sometimes you get better information visually as to what the feel is supposed to be when it's written as with eighth notes or quarter notes. Sometimes visually in standard notation, it just makes a lot more sense, one or the other, and it really visually conveys what the rhythm is.
Yeah, and that's usually, yeah. I think I know where you're going, but what's the question? Is the question why, or what's your question?
No, I'm just saying. So, but do you think that same thing applies in 5/4 and 5/8 also?
Sure.
It's not
sure.
as complex. It's not as complex as 7/8 or 11/8.
Correct. Yeah. So I'll draw, let's say we were drawing standard notation.
Yep.
And these dots are all going to become eighth notes. They're not written as eighth notes yet, but each one of these is a note. Okay. Let's assume that they're all eighth notes. Okay. And we're in 5/8 time. Okay. 5/8. Okay. There we are. And if you want to know where the accent is and you're looking at, and you don't want to listen to it yet, or you haven't listened to it yet, if you simply look at how these are beamed, so you could beam them like this. Okay, it's not usually beamed this way, but if you beam them this way, you don't know where you don't know by looking at this where the accents are. You would need more information to determine where the accents are. But if you see it beamed this way, now you have a group of 2 and a group of 3.
Mm-hmm.
So now from this, it's pretty easy to assume that it's 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3. But if we put this back in and we erase this beam, we break the beam here. Now we have a clear case for 3 and 2. 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. Okay, so when looking at the standard notation, even if you're a player that doesn't know how to read music and you only know how to read tablature, and you don't really understand music notation, you don't even need to know how to read music to understand that this is a group of 3 and that's a group of 2. I mean, it's pretty clear. It's pretty obvious. So there's going to be most likely an accent here and an accent here. Those little signs are accent marks. 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. Okay. So those accent marks may not be there, but you can tell by the beaming.
Yep.
So putting it back in, if the break and the beaming was here, this is the beam, the line at the top. Okay. Now, again, you've got 1 2 1 2 3. So it's pretty easy to assume that the accents are going to fall at the start of each group. 1 2 1 2 3. This is the war theme. 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3. Okay. So that's a pretty easy way to tell by looking at the notation what the composer or the songwriter was intending, assuming they correctly know how to notate what they're notating. Okay. If someone goes into Guitar Pro and doesn't really know what they're doing, and just lets the beams go wherever they want, or they don't pay any attention to that, then what you see may not accurately represent what it's supposed to be. But if someone is notating this and they have any idea what they're doing, they're going to notate it like this or like the other way where the beam break is over here. Okay. So when you get into other time signatures like 7, okay, so we'll change this to 7/8. You have more combinations, more possible combinations of 2s and 3s. Okay. So here you got, this is not a very common way to play 7, but it's a possible way. 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1. Sorry, 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. This is probably the least common way to play in 7, but it's a possible way that you would see 7. What you're more likely to see is either 2 groups of 2 or 1 group of 4 and then a group of 3. And there usually would be beamed like this. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3. You can assume an accent's going to be there and the other one's going to be there. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3. Sometimes there's an additional accent here. And now you really have 2 groups of 2. You can just take this beam away. Now it's more easy to see. 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. Okay. It's also common to flip this around. Now we're reading this way. 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2, or 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. Those are both common. So 4s and 3s, or 2 2s and a 3 is common. I wrote a tune that is in 7. That's 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. It's just 2s and 3s or 4s and 3s, and it's 7. It's really not a big deal to play that. It's just like playing in 4, but we're just breaking it up. 2s and 3s or 4s and a 4 and a 3, etc.
Yep. So I learned something pretty cool, which it's one of those things that you feel, but nobody ever put words to it, from our friend Tommaso Zilio. When it comes to playing in these odd time signatures, if you're going to be composing something, if you put the longer part of the odd meter, meaning like if you 4 and then you add 3, it's actually going to have a certain flow to it, as opposed to the 3 then the 4, meaning where the accents fall. So if you go 1, 2, 3, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. What am I doing? No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That has a certain flow to it, especially if you're playing riffs or really tight rhythms, Genton or chugging along or something like that. It has a certain kind of flow to it. And I don't know if that is, I don't know why it feels that way, but he pointed it out and I'm like, yeah, it actually does. Are you familiar with that concept?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because what's going on there is when the listener's ear first hears the first group, it establishes an expectation in the mind that, oh, we're going to hear that same thing probably repeated again and again and again and again. Okay. So let's say we're in 7, 7, 8, 7, 4, doesn't really matter. Okay. I'll write it in 7, 8 here. And let's say that we have the first 3 notes in 7, 8. And then we have the beginning of the next new pattern. I'm drawing this out for everybody. Okay. Now at this point, we haven't written out all 7 notes yet. But what we have done is we've established an accent here, most likely, and an accent here. This is the start of the new group. Now the listener has no idea what time signature we're in. He doesn't know we're in 7 yet. Okay. When he hears 1, 2, 3, he's either, his mind, even a non-musician is going to perceive this correctly. Okay. You do not need to be a musician to understand and recognize patterns. Any normal person who does not play guitar, any civilian, okay, any civilian can pick up on the pattern. So they hear a beat here, 1, 2, 3, and then they hear the start of the next pattern, and they're expecting at that point to hear another pattern of 3. Again, even non-musicians would have this expectation. So ignore the fact that this says 7, 8 here. Forget about that for now. Once the listener hears an accent here, here's the other 2 notes, and then here's this accent, they're expecting to hear this over and over and over and over again. They're expecting basically 6, 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's the expectation. Okay. What happens now is when you add an additional note, you deny, you ruin, you ruin that expectation. They are ruined. Okay. So now it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Completely ruined. The expectation doesn't get fulfilled there. They're expecting a beat here, and the next beat they're expecting to occur here is the start of the next 3-note pattern. but they're denied. They're not given that accent here. Instead, this whole pattern gets extended one more, and you're making them wait longer for what they're anticipating. Okay. Hence, you've ruined the expectation. So, example, if I do this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? Those are groups of 3. Okay. So when we start over, the listener is expecting to hear the completion of the second group of 3. But instead, they get this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1. They have to wait longer now. So there's a lopsided feel to it, which all odd meters have. But the expectation is set up here and is denied here. It's extended. They have to wait for it. Now, the alternative is the opposite of that. So when we set up an expectation in the listener's mind of a group of 4, okay, we're still in 7/8. The listener has no idea yet what time signature we're in. All they know is that they've heard a group of 4, and then accent here 1, 2, 3, 4. Now they're expecting another 1, 2, 3, 4. They're expecting 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. You only need to go from here to here, and the expectation in the listener's mind, and again, even a civilian non-guitar player understands this expectation. And instead of giving it to them, we are now rushing. Are you a rusher or are you a dragger? Quote from a great movie. Who in the chat knows what that quote is? What movie quote is that from? Are you a rusher or are you a dragger? Bonus points wherever. Who gets it in there first? All right. So anyway, the point is you got a pattern of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The listener is expecting another 1, 2, 3, 4, but they're cut off. They get the next accent here, which is the start of this again. So they're getting it earlier than anticipated. Okay. So instead of making them wait, the denial of what they're expecting, we're giving them what they expect earlier than they're expecting to hear it. So it's a surprise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There either must be a big time delay between us live and them hearing it, or Brian on Facebook got it. All right, Brian got it. All right, good for you, Brian. Okay, the movie is called Whiplash. All right, if you haven't seen that movie and you're a musician, you need to go see it right now. Whiplash. It's about musicians. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So we are giving them the next accent over here before they expect it. Here, we're giving them the next accent after they expect it. In 4/4 time or 6/8 time, we give them what they expect when they expect it. Okay, so the expectations are met when they're expected to be met. In odd meter, they are not, which makes them really cool. Okay. Now, eventually they latch on to the 7/8 or 5/8 or whatever time, and then they learn to adjust their expectations. So it's going to be lopsided: 2 + 3, 3 + 4, 2 + 2 + 3, whatever it is. Okay. So that flow you were talking about. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's different. Now, here's another way you can mess with their heads. You can take that 4 pattern and we had up here 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and make it 2 groups of 2. So now you're giving them the accent earlier much earlier. Now it's 3 + 2 + 2, not 3 + 4. Okay. So that's this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. So it changes the flow because we are messing with their expectation. We're messing with their heads is what's happening.
Then you could change where the accents fall by the measure as well.
Absolutely.
And really screw them up big time.
Yeah.
They don't know if they're coming or going.
That's right. You could do this, the first measure, and the very next measure, you give them that. Then you can give them any other variation or combination, staying in the same time signature. So this happens also in 4/4 sometimes when you have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then maybe right at the end of a verse or a chorus before it goes into the next part, the drummer often will create a measure of asymmetrical 4/4 where it's 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3. In that case, it's two measures. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. And that's right where it's going to change, usually from a verse to a chorus or the end of a solo or something. That's very common. Let me draw that out real quick. I know we're talking about 5/8 and 7/8. We're not talking about 4, but you can create almost an odd meter like feeling, an effect, staying in 4/4.
Yeah, it's that grouping of 2s and 3s to eventually equal 8, 2 measures of 4.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it happens all the time. It happens all the time in rock music. Lots of drum fills that happen with the kick drum and the snare. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. So this would be the standard expectation: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then you take the same group of 8 notes and you just regroup them. You're not playing any faster. You're just changing where the accents fall. So now you got a group of 3, a group of 3, and a group of 2. 3 plus 3 plus 2 still equals 8, just like 4 and 4 does. But now you've got accents. You got an accent here, an accent here, and an accent here. So it's not where you expect it. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. So you can write a whole song with that rhythm. That's called asymmetrical 4/4. So it's very cool. In terms of playing 7/8 time on your guitar, if the counting thing is still weird to you, just take a chord, any chord you like. I'll take the C sharp minor 7th chord. Any chord will do, and create a 7-note picking pattern. So you could do something like this: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and that's it. And then you start over without a pause. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. 1 2 4 5 6 7. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Whenever you're counting 7, though, be careful you don't count it this way: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Okay, 7 is a 2-syllable word. You got to squeeze it in. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. 1. Okay, not 7. Yeah. So guitar's a lot of tune here. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. It's fairly simple to get if you just create a pattern for yourself where you really can't screw it up. The pattern is 7 notes. You play it smoothly. There's no pause. There's no hesitation. No note lasts longer or shorter than any other note. And right there, you got it. You're in 7 or you're in 5 or you're in whatever.
A cool example of 7/8 time is the whole middle section of Tom Sawyer by Rush. Where I think it starts with the keyboard part and then it goes into the solo and the rhythm that happens all there. That's actually a really cool example. I mean, if you listen to rock music, you've probably heard that song a million times before. And they're not playing on every single a beat of the measure. It's like a phrase that he's playing, but it actually is in 7/8 time, and you could count that out. It's kind of quick, but you could still count it out. You can get the hang of it. Not the song up until that point, though. So it changes and I believe maybe the very, very end. I don't recall, but I know that the whole middle section in the solos in 7/8 time too. So that's something that you could actually, if you know, your example of playing, just with one chord, that make logical sense. But to hear it in a real world example, you could just tune into that. All You Need Is Love by the Beatles. That's actually 7/8, and the riff. I don't know if the whole song, but the riff, or at least the verse part. There's a song by Led Zeppelin called "The Ocean" that actually has 7/8 time too in it as well. So if you're familiar with any of those songs, it can actually get you at least down the path of hearing it in like a real world example. And if you're trying to play it though, and this is new to you, you definitely want to stick with just playing a 7-note picking pattern over and over and over again, then 7-note picking pattern, and then changing your chord, and then a 7-note picking pattern, and you could change your chords halfway through. But I wouldn't advise that until you can do the other two sleeping, in your sleep, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. If you listen to a lot of any sort of progressive music, prog rock stuff, or Dream Theater is going to have 7 all over the place. The one example I wanted to refer back to earlier when I talked about Gustav Holst's Mars, which was in 5, the Mars, the bringer of war, that war sounding effect. There's a Symphony X song, the final song. I think it's on the album Divine Wings of Tragedy. It's the final tune, and it uses Gustav Holst's the theme from Mars, the Gustav Holst piece. It uses that theme, but they put it in 7. So it's a 5/8 tune put into 7, at least in some sections. In the first section of that tune, it's very cool. It is super, super aggressive. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the last track of Divine Wings of Tragedy, Symphony X. So if you want to hear another sort of heavy metal version of the war theme in 7 instead of 5, that's a really good example there. How about let's choose one other time signature to talk about here? Maybe, I don't know, 11?
Sure. 11's cool. Yeah, 11's cool. 11's really cool. And again, so far, what is 5? It's smaller components. And then what's 7? We break it up into smaller pieces. 11 is no different. We have more choices of 2s, 3s, and 4s that need to equal 11, but it's the same principle that you're not counting to 11 the whole time. You don't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 1, 2, 3, you could break it up into 2s, 3s, and 4s as long as you're coming out to having your total of being 11. So, easy way again, though, you could pick a 11-note picking pattern on one chord. And if you have a hard time keeping track of 11 notes, now's a good time to, maybe do 4, 4, and 3. Something nice and easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Just so you can keep track of it and you can get the feel of it. Keeping it really, really super sterile. That'll definitely keep you on track. 11-note picking pattern. You can go straight down through 6 strings. You can come back 5. There's nothing that complicated. There's not a lot of brain power that requires your brain to do when you keep like those picking patterns like that super simple. And then, like I said, the same thing with 7/8 is now you can change chords after you play in 11/8 several times. Maybe on one chord, now you could change chords once you're familiar with the picking pattern and the feel of it. And then, of course, as things get, as you get better and better, you can be changing chords in the middle of one of your measures if you wanted to. But then again, if you're going to do that, keep track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Maybe play one of your chords for 8 beats and then just the other chord for 3, and then 1 for 8 and then 3, or vice versa, something like that. Keep it super simple. That's the biggest thing, is keeping it. Always keep it so even if you think it's just like the most kindergarten thing to do. If it's that easy, just do it once then. but you never know. Maybe you'll have to do it 2 or 3 times, and then you'll never have to do it again.
Yeah, exactly. So in 11, two of my favorite groupings are 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2. 4, 3, 2, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. This way the groupings get shorter. You start with a longer grouping of 4. You set up that expectation. Then you give a grouping of 3. Now there's a new expectation. Then you deny that with 2 groups of 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, etc. It's pretty cool. Another one, favorite of mine, is 5 and 6. So a group of 5 and a group of 6. So this can sound really nice with chords. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. So this is 5 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sounds really cool. You can just take any chords, play a group of 5, then a group of 6, and then put them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a really cool effect. It really shifts where the expectations of those beats are. And because 11/8 is longer than 5 or 7, naturally it takes more time for that pattern to repeat itself. And because it takes more time for the pattern to repeat itself, you can set up and deny or set up and extend rhythmic expectations on the listener. So they have to wait longer for the pattern to start over to latch on to it. So that's an advantage and a disadvantage. The advantage is you can cram in way more rhythmically interesting things. The disadvantage is because it takes more time for the listener to latch on and hear that pattern played a few times, you could lose their interest a little bit. For people who have the attention span of a squirrel or a 2-year-old, they're gone. Okay. But if you're playing to adults who don't have TikTok brain, then, they might want to stick around for the next 2 or 3 iterations of 11/8 time. And, it's really cool. There's a big payoff there.
A cool use of 3, 3, 3, and 2 is that Allman Brothers song "Whipping Post." That opening riff that they have, 3, 3, 3, 2. Bam, 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 bam. 3, 3, 3, 2. Listen to that. Yep, very cool.
Very good.
Yep, very cool.
All right. So, Mark, you
Yes.
have something, I think, of interest for everybody?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, what I have is a free downloadable resource that you can get at rhythmguitarlessons.net/pro. And it is the beginner's guide to adding lead guitar elements to your rhythm playing. So what this is going to do is it's a step-by-step process, taking you from the very, very, very basic. You don't have to know anything about how to play notes in between your chords. So if you've ever wondered, how you hear people playing chords and there's a couple of notes that they play in between, how do you do that? Which notes do you pick? What are they doing there? This is entry level stuff. You don't have to know anything at all. It's all tabbed out. It has chord diagrams. It has audio examples. It's very, very, very basic. So, I know a lot of people say that this is basic, this is easy. I'm telling you, this is really basic and easy. I designed this for the person who knows nothing other than just knowing how to play a couple of chords. And you can easily do that with this. It's a really, truly a step-by-step process. And the audio examples really help out because not only do you see it in tablature, but you get to hear what it's supposed to sound like too. So that's a totally free resource. You can check it out there at rhythmguitarlessons.net/pro. check it out. I would love to have you have it.
Awesome. All right, cool. And I also have something for everyone. You can download this for free right now. This is about adding fire. That means drama, passion, feel to any lick that you already know. So in this free resource, which you can download for free, no strings attached, you can download it right now, okay? In this resource, this is not about me showing you a bunch of cool licks or whatever. It's about showing you how to take the skills you already have, take the licks that you already know, and be able to make those licks with your existing skills sound better. That's the whole point of this. You can download it for free right now. Doesn't cost anything. No strings attached. My website, tomhess.net/emotions. All right. Thank you very much here, everybody who will hang out with us live here. Thank you, Mark, for all your insights and your help on this topic. I know you teach a lot of this stuff to a lot of people. So you were the guy that I wanted to bring in to talk about this rhythm guitar and odd meter, etc.
Cool.
So, very cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you, Mark, for all your expertise. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.